Okay, welcome. Welcome to Satsang. There's one thing everybody wants, whether they realize it or not, and that is to feel alive, to feel happy, to be peaceful, to feel fulfilled. Okay? But if you add all these qualities together, you'll come up with one thing. It's called love. Because you'll find that you are at your best when you are loving. Loving someone, loving something, loving yourself, loving the moment, it doesn't matter. This is when the best happens to you. Okay? So today we're going to discuss the ways we seek love. And the ways we seek love brings all the suffering in the world. And we're going to see why. 3 people have asked me and they said, Bert, why do we seek love? Or how do we do it? And so for those of you on the YouTube, I have written this 6-page booklet based on the ways we seek love, so that what we discuss today you can have for free by asking for this PDF copy. Okay. Now, the reason is that we're always seeking love without realizing it. And that's the whole point of awakening. Awakening is realize my nature is love itself. Love is fulfillment. Love is all that there is. It doesn't matter what you call it. Religions throughout history have called it God. But what happens with God is that you make it into, what is the word, when you make it into a form of man?
Like a human deity, as it were.
Yeah, it's anthropomorphic. Yes. That's the word. Thank you. Yeah, so we make it into an anthropomorphic being, but it's not. It is love itself. See, the beautiful thing is that when you begin to realize you are love, you begin also feeling that you are connected to everything and everyone. And that connection brings you the realization that God is all there is. It is just like, looking at the ocean, one ocean, but there are billions of waves on the ocean, and each wave seems to be unique, different and separate, but yet it's all the same water, you see, and they're all connected. So this is how we are. When we begin to feel this connection, we begin to feel this love, then we realize that God always existed and is the greatest force that there is, and I am that. See, that is the greatest knowledge. Did you know that? As long as you make God outside of you, like most religions do, and I'm not against religions, because I think it's okay, but when you make God in something separate, and you separate from that, it is that separation that causes all the chaos. And one thing that causes separation is wanting love, seeking love. And the moment you seek love, you're actually saying, I am not love. And it goes into your subconscious mind, creating all the known qualities that we do not like. And we're going to go into that. Today I'm going to use 2 emails that people have written, and I'm hoping that all of you will join in and give your feeling about what this person is saying or what they need. Okay? Okay, but before that, let me say why seeking is so dangerous. Because the moment you seek, not only are you saying, I am not love, but it actually gives you all the characteristics and all the emotional expression of someone lacking love. Okay? So therefore, like we discussed last satsang, there are 2 emotions. And these 2 emotions, what is the word? Typify all the different emotions, hundreds of them. But today, instead of saying love or fear, we're going to say two things, contraction and expansion. See, to make it simple, because many people have asked, and one of them wrote an email here, says, well, when I experience this feeling so bad inside, I don't know what to name it. Am I feeling guilt? He asks, Is it fear? Is it loneliness? Is it desperation? Is it this and that? So, to make it very simple, don't call it anything. And how do you know it's negative?
You feel
Easy.
distracted.
You don't feel good.
Yeah.
Right, we all want to feel good, right? We want to feel alive. Well, if you're not, yeah, there's negativity there. And that's only natural. So, contraction and expansion. Contraction, think of it this way, okay? The moment you are with people, you begin to feel self-conscious, you begin to contract. You're conscious of yourself. So see it as if you're going into a cage, into a small enclosure. You're becoming very, very small. You become very small in contraction. Expansion is when you expand. Okay? When you expand, just like say, you see, you reach out. So you get out of your ego. You get out of that idea of who you think you are. Because there's another thing that scares people, is that everybody thinks they are personal. But you know, I've done hypnotherapy for over 30 years and I've had hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands, of clients. And they all had the same problems. They all had the same fears. But they all thought that their problem is personal. You see? And they wanted to know for sure that I do not discuss it with others, their problem, because it's, you know, even if I say I won't mention the name, they didn't even want to hear it because they think that it's very personal. Well, there's no such thing as personal. Now, love, which is universal love, which is finding the expansion of yourself, is when you bring the contraction into an expanded state, and in that expanded state, then you begin to see that I am. You see? I am is not personal. I am is. Now, when I say is, do you understand what I mean by is?
Being.
Being.
Existence.
Hmm?
Existence.
Existence. Is, just is.
No beginning, no end. It is life itself. The essence, it is what people talk about when they say God. It's that.
That. Yeah. And that isness contains all the qualities of what we call expansion. Okay. Now, is it very clear about contraction and expansion? Contraction, we call it dark. Think of it this way. Think of clouds in the sky. Okay? And when they gather moisture, they become denser and denser. And as they become dense, they become very dark. When they become dark, it's as if the sun is not there. They cover it completely. Well, the moment that they do that, you say, oh my God, it's so dark, there's no sun, blah, blah, blah. But the sun is always there. Similarly with us, when we contract, we lose sight of who we are. And so at that point, we become seekers of love. Seeking of love, therefore, can take many forms. Defensiveness, attack, aggression, power. If your love is not satisfied, it seeks power. It seeks control first, and then it comes into power. I remember after the war, you know, there's so many young people that were bullies in school, always beating up on younger guys. But you know, if you study their relationship with their father or whatever, it's because sometimes they might tell them, you know, be brave, be courageous, be this, be that. You see? And then they feel as if they are not being that. And so they try to be that by beating up someone lesser than they are, to prove that I am better. You see? So by actually attacking someone, you are trying to better yourself. So this is the craziness of seeking love. When you seek love, you go into negativity, contraction. Yeah.
So that grandiose sounds so expansive, but it's actually contracted? Would you say?
It's contraction because contraction refers to you as a personal person. You see, in other words, you are thinking of yourself, you're not thinking of anybody else.
So
They
even
hurt
if you
me.
feel so grand, you're actually not.
When you feel grand, you disappear.
No, but I guess the grandness of the ego I'm thinking
Oh,
of.
the grandness of the ego is still a contraction, though.
Okay.
It's still, you're trying to make this idea of you superior to another. But in doing that, in actually doing that, you are proving to yourself that I'm not. In the same way we discussed anger. Why does person become angry? Okay? Because they're impotent inside. You know, how dare you? You know, why am I emphasizing that? Why am I making myself point? Why am I shouting? Because I want you to listen to me, I want to control you, I want you to be the way I want you to be. See what I mean? Okay. So there are 3 things that I'd like to mention here that are the stages of recognizing that we are love. In the beginning, most people say, just like the people have asked me, they say, well, how do I know if I'm seeking love? What form does it take? Blah, 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 blah. Okay? Well, seeking love is so common, is so prevalent in everything you do. As a matter of fact, if you start watching, become really aware of how people are seeking love, you'll find that everything that they do, the way they walk, the way they talk, their voice, their manner, their everything, is a form of seeking love, believe it or not. This is how quite a study it is. You see, when a person are loving, not seeking love, but are love, they flower. Because they're not thinking of themselves, they're just expanded. And in that expansion, there is no self-consciousness. You see? And in that lack of self-consciousness, there is a presence. You see? When somebody, you go to a party, for example, and you find someone so attractive, so man or woman, it doesn't matter, young or old, but they have a certain magnetism. You just almost want to be close to them, okay? Because at that moment, they are showering with love, because at that moment, they are exhibiting their utmost best. Okay, so the first stage in realizing your nature is to see that everything that you do that makes you uncomfortable, even in the slightest, you are seeking love. No matter how minute it is, okay? It could be any discomfort. At the moment you're seeking love. Well, the moment you begin to be aware that everything you do, 95% of what you do is a form of seeking love, you begin to understand why there's so much negative thinking, why it's so rampant, why it's so prevalent, why it's happening all the time. The moment you become aware of that, you go into the second stage. And the second stage, you see that whenever it wasn't love, it didn't work. Only love works. That has to do with your career, with your personality, with anything in life. When you follow your love, you begin to shine. And you, as a person, begin to grow and expand. You know, some people have asked me, Burt, I have no motivation. I don't know. I'm bored. I get easily, you know, this. I don't know what I want. And then I'll say to them, make a list of all the things you love. And when you have made a list, let's say 10 things that you really, really love, I said, prioritize it. And take the top one, the one that you love the most. And then say to yourself, okay, now, am I willing to do this for a living? Am I willing to do this completely? Because if you do, you develop passion. And if you develop passion for something, no matter what it is, you'll always make it one way or another. This is something that love will never let you down. That when you love something completely, and throughout history we see this. All the great men of history who amounted to something, whether president, or whether it's politics, or whether it's business, or whatever it is. People who loved what they did with a passion always, always. Because another thing that passion does, you want to share it. You want to give it to others, you see? and you flower. So that's one thing. This you begin to realize in the second stage. That without passion, your life has no zoom. It has no juice. You see, has no aliveness. And then you go to the third stage. And the third stage has nothing to do with doing anything. Because the moment you realize that nothing works but love, the third stage is, I am love. I am that very essence itself. You know, one thing that seems to disturb a lot of people is, I'll read it here so that we can. I circled. Could you read that, please?
Yeah.
Yeah, read it loud.
Early in our writings, you told me to find out who I really am. I am finding that I am someone different depending on the situation and more specifically. It is based on how I feel about the particular situation. Is it normal to be someone different in relations to a particular circumstance? Am I still on the right path?
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, so now let's go into that. Now, what did she say here? What is the feeling? Is she on the right path, or what's happening?
She's doubting herself, what she's asking. So.
Okay, because one time I asked her, find out who you are.
Mm-hmm.
So she started to identify with different feelings and different things that change.
It's a good start, and it's good that she's actually questioning that, because who she's looking to identify with is an emotional body.
Mm-hmm.
And it's great that she can see that, because that will be unfulfilling in the end. But it's great that she moves that direction and can still see that, because who she really is has nothing to do with any circumstances.
Very good. That's the whole point. Has nothing to do with any emotional feelings or any this or that. Who you are is. Let's prove it. Now, can I use you for a few seconds?
Sure.
Okay, now I'm going to use Jerry. Jerry, you know how to point a finger?
Yeah.
Good, okay. Point a finger at anything at all. Anything at all. Doesn't matter. Okay, tell me what you see. Remember the words. What you see.
What I see...
Keep pointing, please.
What I see is, the first realm is that I identify like a Buddha with almost wings and fire behind it. But what I actually see is like color and shape and line and light and dark and...
Okay, good, good. Now, what you see, remember. Okay, now next, I'd like you to point to your foot. What do you see?
Oh, I want to say I see a foot with a black sock on it, but what I really see is just
What
this,
you really see.
is
Because how do we know it's a foot? Unless, of course, we called it a foot.
right. Oh, what I see is this black form outlined by the carpet, lighter carpet behind it that has this certain form and shape.
Okay, good. Now, point your finger and point here. Tell me what you see.
Well,
Now,
I
what
see
he's
this
doing is
little-
pointing this, so that you know, because we were only watching me here. Okay, this is what Jerry's doing.
I see this little carbon unit that people call Jerry, who...
Do you really see that right now? Are you seeing that?
What I'm seeing?
Yeah.
What I'm seeing is the tip of my finger and my fingernail.
No, what is the finger pointing
What is
to?
the finger pointing to?
Yes. What do you see?
Well, I actually can't see anything.
Very good. You see nothing, right?
Yeah.
Now keep your finger there, please.
Okay.
Okay. Now I actually see nothing, right?
That's right.
Okay, because the only way you have a face, you have a nose, you have eyes, the eyes don't see themselves, is when you look in the
Right.
mirror, right? Okay,
Yeah.
so now let's take it one more question. Now you see nothing. Who is it that sees nothing?
there is awareness of that nothing.
Beautiful. That's it. So your true nature, the moment you do this, you come to see that you are pure awareness itself, undying, unborn, and never changing. You are an eternal essence. If you begin to think you are something by pointing to it, and you make something out of it, and you see, if you point there, I call it computer right now for the sake of, but actually what I see is not a computer. I see a black thing, a square thing, right? This is what I see. Okay, to be perfectly honest. So when we start looking at things as they actually are and remove all the labels, okay, we are left with what is. When we are left with what is, we become honest about how we feel. See, the reason people suffer so much from seeking, because they don't know what they're seeking. They don't know what's making them do what they do. You see? So actually they're lost. Something takes over. Okay? And it's as if it's taken control. But when we start looking, you see, we find, like for example, somebody says, I am so upset. Okay, show me upset right now. Show me where it is. You see what I mean? You can say, well, my stomach is upset, my this is upset. Like for example, before I started doing satsang, I had a nice smoothie, you see, and it was a large one, full of fruit and everything else. It was great, because right now I'm following a raw diet, and I think it's fantastic. But anyway, but after I had it, I began not to feel too good. Okay, and then I asked the expert, Candice, and she told me, she said that I could be cleansing. So, and I think that this is what is actually happening. But then, when I was coming here to talk, I felt a little bit out of sorts, a little upset and everything else. So I stopped for a moment, and I looked at it. And I said, it's okay. Now it's gone. Now I'm talking. See what I mean? So the power that we have is unbelievable. Once we start using it. So this woman asked, am I these?
So what we're actually doing is most of us, spending a lifetime trying to build us into somebody.
Yes.
And
yes.
That is an futile.
That's absolutely futile endeavor. Because all we need to do is let God be us. God is love. God is perfect. And if we allow that perfect energy to be who we are, the I am of you, then
it just blooms by itself.
Everything just blooms by itself, just like the flowers grow by itself, the grass grows by itself, and everything moves by itself. The clouds move, and it rains, and then the sun shines. The earth is rotating around the sun, and producing different days and months and years. And who's doing it? A woman gets pregnant in the womb, and the fetus starts forming, eyes, brain, and skin, and circulation. Who's doing it?
I didn't do it.
So we.
I'm sorry.
So what is happening is we can say, yes, God is doing it. This energy, this awareness, this intelligence. Which we see, the moment we start naming things, we limit them. You see, we begin to fall apart. We want to use, we give a label to everything, which is fine, because otherwise how can we know? If I say, oh, buy me that, please, the thing that's like that, instead of saying, you buy me a lamp. You know what I mean? So we need the name of the subject, otherwise we get confused. Okay, so when I asked her, find out who you are, what I meant is that who you are, that which is. You see, once you begin to understand that which is, you're always aware. Some people say that when I go into deep sleep, I don't know I am. Okay, it's true. But there comes a moment when you begin to have very deep experiences. They go so deep that actually when you sleep and dream, you know, even if there's a sleep, you're always aware. You always know you are. You see, and that becomes the state of pure awareness. We are aware being. See? Now, I'm going to read you one more here, which is an important one because it's been asked times before. Somebody wants to read it? Oh yeah, you're
The whole thing, eh?
yeah. Okay.
Hello, Burt. Thank you for replying to my email. I've been numb for so long now that it seems so much a part of me. So here's my question. When I'm sitting with the feeling, often I'll swear, shake, tremble, scream, and almost always cry. Is this sitting with the feeling? And what do I do if I don't want to sit with the feeling? Interesting question, huh?
Yes.
Sometimes I don't want to sit with the feeling. Stubbornness, tired, I don't believe, or don't even want to try. Any words you provide will be greatly appreciated.
Okay. So thank you. Thank you very much. Well read. So let's go into that before I, talk about it. What do we need to do when you're feeling these emotions? Let me give you a true story. Just came to mind right now. It's a true story about Burt. Every Christmas, Sylvia visits me and spends Christmas days with me. And so this time, she said she's not going to make it. So the moment we hung up, a feeling came to me. I'm alone. And that feeling, as soon as I said, I feel alone, all of a sudden became heavy. Immediately, because I trained myself, I became aware of this heavy feeling. I sat down. And as soon as I sat down, it's just like a voice saying, this is what aliveness is. Aliveness is not always being positive. Aliveness is feeling the feeling and allowing the feeling to be. And when you do, it transforms. Okay? So you see, because we all want to be alive, and half hour later, I was singing and playing like I always do, and I'm happy again, you see? And so I'm not missing anybody, but there was that moment, and because I sat with it and actually looked at it, you see, and that looking requires quite a bit of awareness, because you have to see that nothing is actually happening when we feel different feelings. It's only because we think things are happening and we feel it so alive in us. So when you say to yourself, I am so grateful to be alive, and everything makes me know I am alive, you see? And if you're sad sometimes, it's okay, it's part of aliveness. You have experiences where somebody you love leaves you, or things happen. But that's what being alive means, to experience life in all its movements. But the moment you make it wrong, this is when we suffer. See, how do we make it wrong? You make it personal, you feel sorry for yourself, and you feel like a victim. If you don't have these three, an experience is an experience no matter how, quote, bad it is, it's part of life. And to be alive is not to stop yourself from experiencing, not to say, no, I run away from this, but to experience it fully, you see? And it is that aliveness that makes us expand. We become small because we become so entrenched into the small me. We go into a cage, and so we don't want to move out of that, so we become self-conscious. And the thing is, you see, it goes into the subconscious mind believes it to be true, and it makes it a living thing in you. And before you know it, you begin to act diffident, you begin to act with an inferiority complex, you begin to act very self-consciously, and you begin to wonder, what's wrong with me? Well, there's nothing wrong with you, it's just that you made something real that isn't. By simply fighting it instead of celebrating everything that happens. You know, you gave a TED talk, and I don't know whether you have seen it or not, but he was so impressive. And especially about halfway when he talked about his children and his own life. And wasn't it beautiful?
It was beautiful.
Yeah. But what the message was clear also is that it's all part of living, and we learn from that. Yes, you went through a period of great depression, great unhappiness, so of course, you know, we go through it. But then we look back, you know, and say, I've learned from this. You see, it has made me a better person. Okay. So, how would you advise this man now after you heard this spiel?
Feel.
Hmm?
Feel.
Feel.
Continue to feel.
Continue to feel. Now, some people might misinterpret that by indulging.
Even
Okay?
indulging, you know, turn up the tears or whatever, that's okay too.
It's okay too, it's okay too, but what happens is, unless you're aware of what's going on, you see, you indulge in it so much that you identify with it completely. You see? And you begin to feel sorry for yourself. Well, the moment you do that, then you're caught. You see? You're caught into contraction. Now, yeah.
As opposed to, if you might want to call it that, or just allowing the feeling to be expressed through you, but stop with all the I and shouldn't and all of that, then it's just this, it's an energy passing through, and it may lift you up and it may take you down, and but that is secondary, if you want to call it that, to the hum of life behind that.
Yeah.
That's
The hum of life, I love that. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. It is the movement of life, the harmony of life, the song of life, right? You see, you know, one thing I loved when I was in Italy is, you know, I was invited to a lot of homes, you know, and they were beautiful, and they treat you like their son, and you became a friend, and they couldn't feed you enough, you know. But one thing they all had in common, they all shouted. They didn't talk, they shouted and yelling to each other. But you could swear that behind that shouting they would die for each other. You know, there was that energy. So yeah, so when this feeling comes, you just simply allow the feeling to be. Now I reached a point where if a feeling is really bad with me, what I do is, one, I talk about it, and two, I sit with it. And then it works itself out. Whether it's physical, whether it's mental, psychological, emotional, or whatever. Okay, so are there any questions? Because people ask me on the internet, says, could you tell us how people seek? Okay, but before, do you want to ask a question?
Well, I just was wondering, how important is it to be able to observe your pattern that repeats? Because usually
You see, yeah, seeing your pattern that repeats, as long as you call it a pattern and not you.
Mm-hmm.
See, the moment you identify anything as you get caught. There is no you. I know this sounds kind of crazy and people misunderstand that. You see, there is no you in the sense there is no persona, but there is a unique expression. And that unique expression is the life force itself, is that life that you emanate, that you express. That is an eternal source of you. If you identify with the outside you, with the conditioned you, then you make yourself small all the time. Because one thing that happens when you identify with the outside of you, which is made up from your childhood, and you identify with it, you end up spending most of your energy defending, protecting, and maintaining it. 95% of the time, like that Asagiola said, the founder of psychosynthesis. Now, when we were born with certain conditioning. How our parents treated us, maybe religion, tradition, nationality, race, or whatever. And also the thoughts of the parents affected you. How they think without even telling you, their value system. So by the time you're 6 or 7 years old, you develop what is called a pattern of behavior. That pattern immediately starts seeking love. Okay, let's go into. There are 9 patterns of seeking love, and this is a study, and you can find out by googling for it too. It's called the Enneagram. I don't know whether you've heard of the Enneagram. Okay. Number 1, they seek perfection. They seek love through perfection. Okay, and so everything has to be perfect because that's the way they were brought up. You know. So they always feel that they haven't done their best. There's always something missing. You know, they always keep looking back. Did I do it right? Oh, maybe I could do better than this. And they're never satisfied. They're never fulfilled. Because it's such a drive to be perfect in everything that you do, which is impossible. Because the human can never be perfect. Okay? Only the I am is perfect because it just is. Number two are always seeking romance, maybe a lover, a possibility of having someone in their life. And number 2 are, they're heavy dreamers, you see, and when they end up with someone who loves them, they start finding fault within 3 to 6 months in the relationship, and they end up with somebody else. Okay, you might say, this happens all the time. Well, I'll tell you, this is one thing that I've learned when I was a hypnotherapist. I saw this pattern over and over and over. And sometimes I told people, I said, well, this is what you did and this is what you're doing. You said, my God, are you psychic? I said, no, I'm not psychic. I said, this is the pattern that we brought up, you see? And it shows. It shows in the manner, it shows in the voice, it shows in the walk, it shows in everything. You see? Number 3, this is, well, incidentally, again, I repeat, ask for this PDF and I'll send it to you. Number 3, they seek love through success. Because the parents maybe believed that you have to be worthy, you have to deserve things in order to, when you have achieved something, then you can be respected, you can be loved, because you have amounted to something instead of just loving the child because it's a child. It has to prove itself. It has to attain something. So therefore, number 3 is they seek success. They seek love through success. Because inside, they never feel good. They never feel quite enough. Okay, so they drive themselves to make more money, to gain more material things, to gain this, to do that, and they're always going. And if you talk to them, they're always busy. They're always busy. They never spend time to just sit still and meditate or, whatever. Number four, this is quite something. I've had more number 4s as a hypnotherapist than any other. And these people seek love through their own identity. Because as children, they've been abandoned. They've been abandoned not necessarily physically, but they could have been abandoned emotionally. Okay, number 5, the 5 people, you can spot them right away, unless they reach an awakening stage. And number 5 act this way. They seek love through knowledge. So they usually have a lot of books, and they read a lot, and they have a lot of knowledge, and they're very intellectual, but they never live the truth that they know. Okay? Eckhart Tolle, and I bless you, and I love you, he's a number 5, but he's he's overcame it, you see. Now he hugs people, he gives talks to a lot of people, and he's got confidence and everything else. Number 6 people, they seek love through security. And sometimes, most of the time, they marry for security, not for love. They have to have someone to make them feel good, to make them feel secure about themselves, emotionally secure. Number 7, they are people who are very positive. They seek love through positivity. They like the feeling up, feeling alive. And when they end up in a relationship or with someone who is negative, they feel trapped. And they can't stand it. Number 8, they seek love through control. And probably they had very controlling parents. And so, for example, if it happens to be a man, he's a very macho man. If it happens to be a woman, number 8, well, that number would be a very strong feminist. And she would want women to have the real power, and she believes that, you know, to stand up, do something about that. And then number 9. Number 9, they seek harmony and they seek peace with everybody they meet. But they're afraid to express anything negative. They can't assert themselves completely because they feel if they make waves, they're going to lose a friendship, they're going to hurt somebody. You see? So all the time they try to be as nice as they can so that they are accepted and loved. Okay, now, though these are not cast in stone, these 9, but they do change as we realize we are love. In fact, you overcome your own number when you actually rise and know that you are love itself. Okay, so are there any questions here?
This is a question that comes just before the 9, and that is, what I'm seeing is that people are often seeking pleasure and to avoid pain.
Right.
So that's where their stream runs.
Right.
And so they can confuse the sense of feeling alive, which is the truth of life, with pleasure.
Yes.
So that can confuse them because they know that living fully feels great, that expansion feels great, and that contraction feels small. But because they're in a world where they perceive pleasure as good, it traps them.
It traps them. And that's where addictions come in. Okay? Addictions always happen with pleasure. Never, never with love. Never with love. You can be as passionate as you want when you love something, but you don't become addicted. You're always good, you're always at your best, you're always doing well, and you'll always keep growing. But when you seek pleasure, it becomes addiction. Pornography came into sight, started with the sexual revolution. Now, of course, it's very rampant, and many people are addicted because it's pleasure. And pleasure is a trap, you see, and you become addicted. You get pleasure out of drinking, you see, because why do you drink? To forget, so that you can be outgoing, right? Because you see, did you know that when you drink, you forget the ego? You become uninhibited? But what happens is that the moment they become sober, they say, I don't like me when I'm sober. So they drink more. You see? And before you know it, they become alcoholics. You see? And of course, then again, what addiction does, because the mind and body work together, always together. So the moment you become addicted to drink, the body actually craves it. In the same way, many people say to me, Bert, my mind is so busy and I'm negative all the time. That's addiction to negativity, okay? And what starts it, it's feeling sorry for yourself, self-concern. One time the government made a study in the United States, and they found that, how much, I forgot the percentage now, of people suffering stress. As much as 80% of the United States suffer stress. And it leads to diseases, mental, physical, and everything else. But when you go to a doctor, they say, oh, you have stress, you're suffering stress. But they never tell you what stress is. What is stress? They don't know what is stress. What is it?
It's the fight against time. I would think.
Yes, that's true, but there's something specific. What is stress? Feel it. When you're stressed, what is happening?
Pressure.
Contraction.
It's like you want to be somewhere else. It's like you want something to be not the way it is now.
That's true, that's true. Okay, in simple terms, okay, and it says what you've said too, but you make it very simple. It is self-concern. Okay? Self-concern, stress. You become so concerned with yourself for time, for whether what I'm going to do is right, for I'm catching up. It's always me, 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 me. Self-concern, that's stress. You see? There are people who are so efficient, so egoless, that they can answer the phone, they can go and do something else, and never lose that momentum. You know? And so you might say, they don't suffer stress at the moment? No, because love has taken over. See? In love, there can be no stress. But the moment you think something is too much, oh, the phone keeps ringing, oh, she keeps yelling, oh, this interrupting me, okay? I become self-concerned, and all of a sudden, because it bothered me, I've lost the flow. And now I begin to forget, I make mistakes, etc., etc., you see? So that's what stress does. And then you feel bad for feeling bad, and before you know it, you really feel better and better and better. You know? Not better, better, right. Okay. So, are there any questions at all?
I just wanted to bring up a quick point.
Yeah.
In the beginning of the talk, we started talking about kind of the physical expression and noticing, okay, well, clearly, okay, this is not me, and there's something in here that's witnessing. But I think it's very hard for most people to recognize that what in psychology is called the inner world, you know, of our thoughts, feelings, emotions, sensations. People think, okay, the outer world, but the inner world is me. And so to come to a place to recognize that that part is also on the screen, because you don't see it physically with your eyes, but you see it in terms of, you're aware of it, you see it in consciousness, so it's just the same way, it's on the screen of consciousness. So clearly if I see it, it's still not me, even if it's a very intimate emotion, something, you know, deep inside. So I think when people perhaps sit with something and they feel, okay, well, this is, you know, anger, and they feel like this is me, this is my anger, I'm feeling me, but it's not this way.
No, it's not that way. So it's an expression. You see, what we call the me, yes, everything that is happening to you is happening to you, but the thing to always remember is that this idea of me, this idea of, not I am, because I am is I am. It's universal, okay? But this idea of personal is itself the stress point. So therefore, anything that happens that causes that stress, you say, oh, it's happening to me, it's affecting my body, it's affecting my mind, it's affecting everything, this is me, okay? And in a way, they are right. But if they go to their true nature of, you know, who they are, they find that all that is happening is just a movement, and there is no me. You know when you put the finger there, okay? If you never looked into the mirror, okay, you says there's nothing there. I'm just seeing a finger. But who's aware of that? You see? And awareness is aware of that. So if you say awareness is aware of that, am I the awareness that is aware of that?
The small I isn't.
No, the small I isn't. So you are the awareness that is aware of that.
Yes.
Yeah. And so the moment you explore this, you do this automatically, what happens? What starts to happen in you? Everything that you have said right now, all this tension, this worry, this fear, this, that, you see that it's a play of mind. It's a psychological factor. It has no substance, no reality other than how you view things from a perspective point of view. You see, how we see things, in other words. This is why the moment you start calling something a subject, and then you think that this is real as a subject, that's a lamp, and that's this, and that's that, what happens is you start making everything real. But if you for a moment realize that your true nature is that awareness, that I was aware of everything, and the moment you click that, you find that everything that was happening because of the perception that you had in the moment, but all you are is this. Are you with me so far?
It's
Okay.
almost like it has nothing to hold on to
No.
because there's so much space.
Yeah,
That's all there is.
right. So one thing that I want to stress here, in case I don't want to forget, is this, that when you're dealing with your emotions, when you're dealing with your feelings, don't deny them. Okay, because if you only deny them, they gain greater power over you. Okay? So what you do is love them. Embrace them. Why and how? Well, why? Because when you're contracted, you're not expanded. Right? So the only way to expand is to welcome whatever is happening. Welcome it. Actually, really, sincerely welcome it. Don't make it wrong. Don't make it, I wish I didn't have this. And so the moment you welcome it, you actually expand. The moment you expand, you'll find there's nothing there but awareness, but joy and love and peace and happiness. See? Okay, namaste.